All right, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today, Budgeting and Money Tracking for Set Dec. My name is Natalie, and I'm on the marketing team here at Sync on Set. I have with me my colleague Taylor from the product support team, who will be leading you through today's tutorial. Before we jump into the demo, I just want to let you know that to accommodate for social distancing, we are running these webinars from remote locations, so please excuse any interruptions or unexpected delays as this is not our usual setup. Now that we've covered that, let's look at what we're going to talk about today. Today's webinar is for any set decorators and coordinators who are responsible for budgeting. Today we will cover budgeting by set type and miscellaneous. We'll look at cost reports, tracking payments, and managing assets, and we'll finish up with some best practices. Now, while Taylor will be walking you through the demo today, I will be monitoring for any submitted questions, so please feel free to write in with questions as you think of them. You may submit questions by using the Q&A function located at the bottom of your screen, and we'll take some time after the demo to answer questions. Once we've finished with today's demo, we'll send you a copy of today's recording along with links to our FAQ page, some useful help articles, and you'll also find some additional videos, all which are living at our new help site, support.synconset.com. And with that, I'm going to pass things over to Taylor.
Thanks, Natalie. Welcome to the demo portion of our webinar, which will cover budgeting and money tracking for the Set Dec department. During the demo today, we're going to cover how to navigate to the budgeting tool, when to start a new budget, budgeting by set type and miscellaneous items, money tracking, and then we'll finish up with some best practices. Let's get started. When you're ready to start budgeting, you can access our budgeting tool using the product switcher in the top left corner. Once you click the drop-down menu, choose Budgeting. The first time you access your budget, you'll land on this page. We recommend starting your budget only once you finish your script breakdown and your sets have been built out within continuity. If you need to start your budget and you haven't finished breaking down the script or building your sets, you can always add them in later. If there are any sets you want to exclude from your budget, you can untick the boxes in line with the set name. Once you're ready to get started, you can choose Start Budgeting. For now, let's move to a more built-out production. This will be the landing page you come on when you first access the budget. As you can see, you can budget for your sets based on their set type. We have the different tabs for each set type listed here in the top left. So you can budget by standing, swing, location, and other would be anything that hasn't been designated a specific set type. For the purpose of our demo, let's talk about budgeting for standing sets. So we have 4 sets that have already been built out, and we can assign them a budget by entering in an amount in this box here. So let's put a random amount, such as 5,000. And we'll budget for this set as well. We'll put 6,000. As you input budget amounts, you'll notice the total allocated for each group will be updated in the budget summary bar at the top of the screen. The amount shown in the blue bar is the accumulated total for the entire budget. We also have the option to budget down to the set piece. So let's say we wanted to add a set piece for this set. We would click the blue Add Set Piece button here, and then give the set piece a name. So let's call it a chair, and we'll assign it a price. Let's say it costs $200. As we continue to add set pieces, I just wanted to point out that the items you enter in first will appear at the top, with items inputted last at the bottom of the list. So just make sure you input them in the correct order if sequence is important. So we will assign this set piece a name as well, and we will give it a value. Once we've finished budgeting by set piece, we'll tick off this Sum Pieces box in order to add a running total of pieces you budgeted for together to create a final budget for the entire set. Next, let's talk about budgeting for miscellaneous items. The first time you come to the miscellaneous items budget page here, you'll see that we have some default categories already built out for you. These are totally optional and you can delete those if you'd like by clicking the X in line with the item name. You also have the option to create a new line item by clicking the blue line item button here. And we can input a name. And when we have the budget amount, we can input that here. So let's put in an amount there. I wanted to point out as well that we shouldn't edit existing miscellaneous categories names in order to create new categories. This is because any updates to these names will not automatically update in our money tracking tool. So just to point out what I'm talking about, let's move over to the cost report. So as you can see, we have the three categories that we created in the miscellaneous budgeting listed here with the proper names. So if we navigate back to the miscellaneous budget and we change repairs to something different, let's call it lunch. Once we navigate back to the cost report, you'll see that the lunch category has not updated to repairs, meaning that all the payments that are tracked to this line item will still look like they're tracked to repairs, which can cause confusion if we're tracking payments to something for lunch. Before we move on from budgeting, I wanted to point out we have a budget-specific report for the Set Dec department, which can be accessed by clicking Print Reports in the top right corner. And from the drop-down, we can click on Set Detail Report to access the Set Detail Report. So the Set Detail Report provides a summary of your budget organized by set type. Once you've generated the report, you have the option to either print it or save it as a PDF from this menu here. Let's move on to money tracking, where we can start tracking our payments. The cost report provides a bird's eye view of how much you've budgeted versus how much you've spent. It's a useful tool to see how much of your budget is still remaining. You can view the cost report in a few different ways. You can view it by payment type, by purchase type, or with no details. For the purpose of the demo, let's look at by payment type. First thing I want to point out is the green edit button. When you click the button, it opens the fields to be edited. You can input your accounting codes if you have them from accounting, or you can edit the accounting names of your sets. If you'd like to create a new line item, you can do so by clicking here. Creating a line item in the cost report will not create a set in continuity, so please only use this feature if you want to track payments to a tracking group that only exists within money tracking. For example, you might want to use this to create a group of sets you'd like to track payments for together as well as individually. So let's give this new line item a line code, and we'll give it a name. And then we'll assign a budget amount. Once we click create, the line item will be created here. If we decide we want to remove this line item, we'll have to remove it from the budget. For now, new line items will appear under the Other tab, regardless of what entity they belong to. If we want to delete the item, we click the X in line with the line item name. It's also possible to group line items together. For example, if we budgeted for our sets individually, but we want to track payments for a single standing sets group for accounting, we can group them together here. First, we'll click the green edit button to open up the editing fields, and then we'll tick off the boxes for the sets that belong to the standing set group. So let's put these three together. Once we're ready, we'll click group. In this pop-up, we'll provide them with a line code. So we'll make this one, and we'll provide it with the name. Once we're happy, we'll go ahead and click Save. So as you can see, the three sets have been combined together into this group called standing sets. It's important to note that when we group sets together, all of their existing payments will be reassigned to the group. Because of this, if you change your mind and want to remove a set from the group, all the payments that were originally assigned to the set will remain in the group and not be assigned back to the set itself. If we decide we still want to go ahead and remove the set from the group, we would click these outward facing arrows, and then we would click the X in line with the set name. Once we're happy, we go ahead and click Submit. Here we'll see that the set group still exists with the two sets in it, but then the one set we removed has been removed. Once we're happy, we can go ahead and click Done. You might notice here that these accounting codes are appearing in red. Account codes appear in red when they share the same accounting code with another set. The reason that it appears red is because typically two sets shouldn't share an account number. Sometimes set numbers are shared in a production, so if this applies, you can choose to ignore the red codes, but when codes are in red, you'll only be able to edit the account codes, and you'll be unable to make edits to the set's accounting name within the edit function. Next, let's move on to payments, where we can start recording our payments. Here on the payments page, we can see all of our payments we've recorded already in money tracking. Right now, we're viewing all of our payments, but we can also filter it by purchase orders, P cards, check requests, and petty cash by clicking on their respective tabs. If we want to search through our recorded payments, we can do so by clicking on the magnifying glass here in the column heading. Then, within the search bars that appear, you can further filter the results. So if we're searching by vendor, we can type in the vendor name. Then if we want to sort the columns, we can go ahead and click the arrows in the column heading. Once we're finished, we can go ahead and click this X in order to clear our selection. If we'd like to print our payments, you can do so by clicking the print icon, which is right here. First, we'll give the report a title, so let's just call it payments. And then we'll go ahead and click print. The print button is actually sensitive to the information we have displayed on the screen. So for example, if we use the search feature and then we further filtered by vendor, and then we went ahead and generated the report, it would actually only show the payments that are listed on the screen. So we can call this report setsRS, and then we'll go ahead and print, and you'll see that only these three payments are recorded. Next, let's go over how to record a new payment. For the purpose of the demonstration, we'll talk about how to do a purchase order. First, we'll navigate to the Purchase Order tab, and then we can click the green Create Purchase Order button. Once the modal opens, we'll go ahead and enter in a purchase order number. We'll enter in 1000, and for the date, we'll pick today's date. For the vendor line, you can either choose an existing vendor that you've entered into your production, or you can create a new vendor. For the purpose of this, let's create a new vendor. Then we'll assign a type, and we'll pick what episode it belongs to. For the tracking group, we can pick what set we're going to track it to. Then we'll assign a cost. The currency icon to the right of the cost is the tax rate box. So when we click that, the tax rate modal will open. We can assign a rate. So in California, let's say it's 9%, and it will automatically calculate the tax based on what you'd entered in the last step. If you had to pay to ship the item, you can enter that amount here, and then we'll click Done. You'll see that all the information has been added together here. Here we have the asset box. Depending on your production's threshold for assets, you might want to check off this box in order to record it as an asset on the assets page, which we'll cover next. Lastly, we can enter in an item description. Once we're satisfied, we can go ahead and click Save. Another feature that's specific to the Set Dec department that I wanted to cover is the ability to create a set piece while recording a payment. If we want to do this, it's the same steps that we covered before. So in this case, let's say we are going to create a new P card envelope. So let's assign it another number. And we'll go ahead and implement today's date. And we'll choose a vendor from the list and an episode again, as well as a set and a cost. And let's say this is a stove. If this is a set piece we want to record within continuity, we can go ahead and click Save and Create Set Pieces. This is going to open up this modal where we can enter in the set piece information. So we've already auto-populated the name, and we can give it a brand and a type if applicable. You can also enter in a description. Perfect. Once we're satisfied, we can go ahead and click Save. So we can see that we've recorded the payment here, but let's see how it looks in continuity. We'll navigate to our product switcher to go back to continuity. And we'll go to our inventory list. So as you can see, the payment we just recorded created an item here within continuity. Let's go back to the budget. So we briefly covered how to record assets. Let's go talk about those in some more detail here. So the Assets page will display any purchase marked as an assets on the Payment tab. If we want to edit any of our existing assets, we just have to click on the line item. This will open up these fields in order to be edited. You can put in an asset number or a UPC number or change the description. You also have the option to add a photo if you click on this box by uploading a photo from your hard drive. Once you're satisfied with the changes, go ahead and click the checkbox in line with the item name. If you'd like to print an asset list, you can do so by clicking the print button, similar to the payments page. We'll give the report a title, and then click print. Next, let's move on to the Reports tab, where you can generate your cost report, vendors list, payment forms, and an asset report. So if we'd like to generate a cost report, in line with the report name, we would choose an episode from the drop-down menu, and then we'll click Generate Report. The report will generate on this page, and then we can click the print button to either print the report, or we can save it as a PDF. You might notice we have some of our reports available in both portrait and landscape orientation, and these reports actually contain the same data, but we provided both because landscapes reports were highly requested by our Canadian users due to formatting requirements of many productions. As we wrap up our demo for budgeting and money tracking in the Set Dec department, just wanted to circle back and summarize a few best practices we've touched on. When it comes to updating miscellaneous budget categories, never update default or existing categories. Always delete and create new categories. Red account codes occur in the cost report if multiple sets in a production have the same accounting code. You can simply update the codes or ignore this if this is intentional. You can save time by creating out your set pieces in continuity as you record your payments and money tracking. Rather than printing, save paper by downloading your reports as a PDF. And for everything else, check out our help center at support.synconset.com.
So that concludes the demo portion of today's webinar. I'll be passing things over to Natalie as we get started with Q&A.
All right, thank you, Taylor, and thank you for that great demo. All right, everyone, we're going to get started with the Q&A portion of the webinar in just a few minutes, so we wanted to give you a chance to write in with any last questions. And while you were doing that, I want you to know that we'll get to as many questions as we can, but if your question does not get answered live, please don't worry. We are recording all of these questions, and we will be sending out additional information following the webinar. I also just want to let you know, a couple people have written in with comments about the video quality not being that great during our demo, and we apologize. I know that there have been some issues with Zoom recently, so please just be patient with us, and we're about to get started with the questions. Thank you.
All right, everyone. So we have some of our questions have already come in here. I'm going to go ahead and get started and answering these questions. So just give me one moment. I'm going to go ahead and start the demo again, and we can answer those. Let's see here. There's a question about exporting payments. So let me go back to the payments Alt tab just to show that. So I think this question relates to exporting this page as a CSV file. We have a similar function in continuity in the inventory index where you can export that list. That hasn't been built out in on the payments page yet, but in the meantime, there's actually a really great way you can simply copy and highlight all this information here. And you can press Command C as a shortcut on your keyboard, or you can left click on your keyboard and copy it and paste it into a spreadsheet software like Excel or Sheets, and it will actually print in the cells cleanly, just like it appears on your screen here. So that's a workaround for that for now. Let me just take a look at the next question. So I have a question about tracking labor. So in our budgeting tool, there isn't currently a way to track labor. And it's not something that we currently have on our roadmap, but it's definitely popular feedback. So we'll continue to share that request with our product team. And as always, we welcome all suggestions and feedback. Anything that you think might make our program better, you can submit via the chat icon in the bottom right corner here. And we review that feedback with our product team on a regular basis. So we definitely encourage that. Let me see if there's any other questions. Just to kind of note on the quality of the initial demo, we will be sending out a higher quality version to you via email after. I see there's a question about that here. And the question continues on to say, what program are you using for the budgeting? So this actually exists directly within synconset.com. So I'll just demonstrate one more time how to get to the budgeting tool. So from any page within continuity, you come to the top left corner, and from the drop-down menu here in the product switcher, you would select budgeting. If you don't see budgeting, it's likely because you don't have permissions, and you just need to contact your department head to gain permissions to access budgeting. Okay. I'm just going to take a look at the next question here. So is there flexibility to create reports and or download data to create a custom report? So I covered this a little bit in the demo, but let me go over it one more time just to reiterate. So for example, if we are generating a report for payments or for assets, these reports are customized depending on the fields that you have highlighted here in the table. So for example, if we use the search feature here in the column heading, and then we filter it down for the particular vendor, we can go ahead and print that report based off of that. But I think what the question might have been asking was related more to the reports page and whether or not these are customizable. The report data is basically built off of what you have in the cost report, for example, or on your vendor list. But the actual columns that appear on the reports aren't customizable for now, but that's also feedback that we've gotten in the past. So we'll definitely relay that along as well. It seems like that's all the questions that we have time for today. So I'm just going to pass things back to Natalie to finish up with today's webinar.
All right, thank you, Taylor, and thank you to everyone who took some time to submit questions. If we did not get to your question, or if you think of something once this webinar is finished, please know that you can always reach out to us via the chat function of our website. You can email us at support@synconset.com, or you can give us a call. Our support hours are Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and someone on our customer support team would be happy to answer your questions. Thank you to everyone for taking your time today to join us for this webinar. We know many of you have been using Sync on Set for a long time, and we appreciate that. And for anyone who's new, we hope that this was enlightening and you learned about how to use our budgeting function. If you wouldn't mind taking some time to please complete our feedback survey, we'd love to know how we did and if there's anything that you can suggest about how we might improve our webinars in the future. And please also be sure to sign up for future webinars. We are launching new webinars each month, and we send out announcements as well as post links on our help site, support.synconset.com. And again, thank you so much, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.